In the 2024 presidential election, we had a couple of swing states decide this year's election, including Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, Nebraska's 2nd Congressional District, North Carolina, Georgia, Nevada, and Arizona, including New Mexico and New Jersey, especially looking at how close these states actually end up being, including New Jersey actually being even closer than New Mexico, which was absolutely stunning this year. So, looking into 2028 and forward, what are the swing states going to look like based on my new election model? Hit the like button and subscribe for more content just like this. I'll be the only YouTuber covering the 2028 election for the entirety of the next 4 years. Other people will also be covering it. But if you want long, detailed explanations about how everything is going to work and how I'm going to forecast it from now going into 2028, be sure to stick around and subscribe to the channel and follow me on X in the description down below. I'll also be posting political news content. Looking at the battleground map, I've essentially created a swingometer model which kind of adjusts the electorate to what I think it'll be in 2028, and even Black Hispanic elector at 11%, Asian at about 6%, and non-college at 38%, white college being at 34%. That's like a generic electorate going into 2028, assuming that either party nominates just regular candidates. The floor for the GOP is 44.8% in the national popular vote to Democrats 46.2%. And I kind of left some room for some of the demographics there. So Republicans' floor for the black vote is going to be 10. For white college graduates, it'll be 42. For Republicans, the white ceiling or floor for white college grads is about 51. The floor for non-college whites for Dems is 30. For Republicans, it's about 60. So this is what I'm looking at right now. And based on these demographics, I've created a map which I plugged into my election model here, where each state looks through all of the county results from the past few elections, tracks the relative to the nation number for each county, and it projects an estimated margin for the state in 2028 and uses turnout numbers, which I will be adjusting in the future to help my prediction be more accurate, and gives me a model of the state. And so now we can essentially go through this map and look at what will be the most toss-up-y type states in 2028. Which states are going to be the toss-up states, which will be lean, likely, safe. So on the Democrat side, California, Oregon, and Washington will still be over 10 points. These states have been reliably Democrat for quite some time. The last time that Oregon, one of these three states, was even relatively competitive was back in 2000 when Gore won it by 0.4%. Kerry then went on to win the state of Oregon by 4.2%, and ever since then, it's now become a solid Democratic bastion. So looking forward into the 2028 election, these will all still be over 10-point wins, but depending on who the candidates are, California may move right from its result of this year, which was Harris plus 20, compared to Biden's win in 2020, which was Biden plus 29. So you may actually see some sort of shift happening in the state of California. Maybe in the 2040s, the state may become slightly more competitive, but right now it's still a safe Democrat state. You know, the states of Utah, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, the Dakotas, all of Nebraska, including the 1st Congressional District, as you can see right here, are all still over 10 points. The state of Utah is very interesting because it is only R plus 12 here, and that's assuming that a generic Republican is running against a generic Democrat. A lot of these rural states are a lot more closer than somebody that is not a MAGA type on the ballot, but this is also assuming a regular generic Democrat would be in the running as well. The states of Iowa and Ohio have moved right enough where even if it was just a generic matchup, you would still end up having Trump plus, roughly give or take, you'd actually have a R plus 11 in the state of Iowa and R plus 13 in the state. So that's roughly where those states are. They will be over 10-point wins in 2028. Looking at Maine's 2nd Congressional District, that's also going to be in the safe Republican column as of right now. Looking at the state of Alaska, that will also be in the safe column. I mean, barely in the safe column, 10.2% for the Republican. It was, in fact, a 13-point win this cycle, but we're seeing that there kind of take place. For the Democrats, we have the state of Colorado coming in at about almost 14 points. It was an 11-point win for Harris this time around. Trump made some gains in the eastern part of the state, while some suburban areas in the western side of the state continue to move left. So that's kind of roughly where we're standing in the state of Colorado. But we do expect with Democrat registration gains that it will, in fact, be moving more and more to the left. The state of New Mexico, on the other hand, will only be an 8-point win for the Democrat in a generic matchup. We see Harris +6 was the map this time around. We saw that Harris actually lost ground in the border counties here in the southern part. However, some areas decided to move left in the western part of New Mexico. The eastern part was kind of a mix of different swings. But overall, the state moved right by a pretty decent amount. It got 5 points closer than when it was in the 2020 election when it voted for Biden by about 11. So there you have it in the state of New Mexico. Minnesota is also going to be coming in as a likely state. It trended left again this cycle. It didn't move as much to the right as people thought it would. Hennepin County didn't really budge. And so with the migration of African Americans moving there, as well as there's a white vote there that's very much more liberal than a lot of these other Rust Belt states, and so that's why we're kind of seeing that shift happen in the state of Minnesota. And so that state, I believe, unless it's a really strong GOP candidate, will not get it under 5 points. There's even a chance that it may not even be under 5, even if the Republican candidate won all the swing states and even made New Mexico closer. I think next year's the year where Minnesota could vote to the left of New Mexico and Virginia. Those are things that I think could happen in the 2020 election. Virginia will be in the likely Democrat column. As of right now, we see about a D+8 result. It was about D+6 this year. Those DC suburbs continue to grow as of right now, unless we get new data showing that that is not going to be the case. Then we can't really make any big assumptions out of the state of Virginia, but we do expect it to kind of trend left in those DC suburbs. But those rural areas here are going to continue to move more and more Republican as time goes on. So that's where we're going to see the state. It's going to be like a D+7, D+8 type of ballot in a generic matchup. Looking at Maine at large and New Hampshire, those will be in the likely Democrat column, both at about 8-point victories. New Hampshire this time around, Donald Trump was able to make some ground in the state, but without a strong GOP candidate, New Hampshire will easily be in the Democrat column. And Maine will also continue to move left as well. And particularly, New Hampshire has a lot of Boston implants from Massachusetts, and so that's why the state may not be that competitive in a generic matchup. This is kind of assuming the floor for each candidate, either Republican or Democrat. This is assuming that the floors kind of stay. So like if the candidates get this amount, give or take, with these kind of voting groups, the percentage that's in the middle is the amount of percent with each category that I think could swing in either direction. And so that's kind of what I'm seeing right now in the electoral math. Republicans at 63 million votes is kind of the minimum I'm seeing. Democrats at 65 million is kind of the minimum that I see for either side. And then we see in the state of New York, that will also be in the safe Democrat column, a 14-point win, 15-point win, still closer. It's more blue than 2024, but definitely much closer than the 23-point win that Biden had not that long ago in the 2020 election. Connecticut will still be a pretty decent win, 16, Rhode Island 14, Delaware about 16, so those will still be in that column. But New Jersey will be about a 9-point win in a regular matchup for the Democrat candidate. If Republicans were to win the popular vote by a couple points, I actually think that New Jersey could be a pure toss-up. But even if the Democrats winning the popular vote, I think New Jersey could be anywhere from like a 6 to 9 point win for the Democrats. The Republicans right now, even though it's still far out, maybe the state does move even further to the right, and then new data will probably be able to pick up on that. And when you turnout data is kind of put in, we'll also be able to kind of see that. But right now, using the base model, it is in the likely column. Illinois is safe, a D+16 margin in the state of Illinois. It was roughly about an 11-point win right now. The default position, I think, is D+16. But unless the turnout changes in the state of Illinois, then of course you're going to have, maybe you're going to have different margins here and there. It really depends on how the state moves in 2028 to determine its future, whether or not it's going to become a battleground or it's going to just kind of stay in that Democrat column. Texas and Florida will be in the likely column in a regular matchup, including Hawaii being in the safe column. So that's where we'll kind of see the states of Texas and Florida. Florida being about a 10-point win, so almost in the safe column. It technically should go in the safe Republican column because it's literally right about there. But in the state of Texas, it is about an 8-point victory in a generic matchup, which seems about right. Everybody's like, oh, Arizona's actually going to be lean R in 2028. Well, you can't really assume that because I actually think that Hispanics and Asians and black voters, those are going to be the most elastic groups. Trump barely lost Hispanics this time, but I think it is very possible that the Democrat next time, given the candidate, could actually win Hispanics pretty easily. Now, it's not going to be a 30-point win, but it probably won't be, a kind of victory where it's just, a certain, it won't be like a close win. A Democrat could, in fact, easily win the Hispanic vote by close to 20 points in 2028. Those groups are pretty swingy, and so that's why we're kind of looking at that right now. We currently see that Texas would be about an 8-point victory in a generic matchup. Now, for the lean states, Nevada is in the lean Republican column. I think 2020 will be the year that the state votes to the right of Arizona. Arizona, Maricopa County is trending left. So it may still vote Republican, but it's going to move left of the nation. So that's why Arizona is voting to the left of Nevada in this case. It would have to take a lot of work for Arizona to vote to the right of Nevada in the model as of right now. So Arizona will be in the toss-up column. Nebraska is second, is also about an 8-point win for the Democrat in a generic matchup. Maybe things change in a particular scenario. This is a little bit swingy. It could actually flip. Quantus Insights actually stated that his modeling did have Nebraska second, flipping to Trump a decent amount of times. And so that's where that is really coming from. That's where that pickup would really come from. And the district's really elastic because it's a small population. So if a candidate's favorable there, they're more than likely to be able to pick off the district, essentially. North Carolina would also be in that lean Republican column at like 1.5 points in a generic matchup. More than likely, the state will be probably over 2 or 3 in 2028, given the demographic circumstances. In Georgia, you have those Atlanta suburbs. They keep moving more left and left. It is temporarily going to be in the Democrat column right now in a generic matchup with Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania kind of being the closest states. I mean, Trump plus or R plus 0.7. Same thing in Wisconsin, Michigan 0.8, and Pennsylvania 0.8. That's kind of what you're seeing in the Rust Belt. So the model is picking up Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania as pure toss-ups. Now, if you were to shift the Hispanic vote all the way to the right, you would see Arizona is in fact not a toss-up and would actually vote to the right of Nevada. Well, Georgia's still Trump plus 3, North Carolina plus 4. So clearly, if every single, if the Hispanic vote were to move to the right and vote for the Republican, you would see Arizona would no longer be a toss-up state. But as of right now, based on the floor and ceilings that I've given for each demographic, for each party, this is kind of the base map that I'm seeing right now. And all the states in the final model that were within a point are effectively the battleground / toss-up states. Pennsylvania and Arizona would be one way to win the presidency. You could also do it with Wisconsin, the Nevada, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania path. You could also do it with Michigan and Pennsylvania. Now, more than likely, the case is if the Democrat wins the presidency, they probably take all of the Rust Belt states with them, in which case they'd win the Rust Belt. Georgia would go, and depending on how the Hispanic vote broke, either Arizona would go a Republican or it would go Democrat, depending on how the Hispanic vote kind of broke in the end. Nevada is more non-college educated than Arizona is, and so it's become more non-college educated as time has gone on. And if the Republicans are going to perform decent with that group, that's why the state is actually in a position where it is in a lean R state instead of Arizona being the state that's actually lean R and vice versa, because there's a lot more pure non-college working class voters in the state of Nevada than in Arizona. Arizona is a little bit more educated. It's a little bit more elastic in my model as of right now, depending on how the Hispanic vote kind of breaks. If the Hispanic vote were to kind of break how it did in 2024, it wouldn't be a battleground. It would be lean R. But based on the floors that I've given each party with demographics, it is still a toss-up. And so is Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Georgia is the one state that is drifting away from Republicans as of right now. If college graduates do shift to the Democrat next year, Georgia may in fact be gone in the next presidential election. And so that is pretty much it for this video, guys. If you guys do have any thoughts, make sure to leave them in the comment section down below. And I will see you guys very, very soon.